I make a mistake in this video and actually refer to Reagan as Renee about 3 times, all in like one sentence. I do call her Reagan for the rest of the video. I just made a simple slip up and mistake. I do apologize. Renee is actually the middle name of the other girl involved in this case. And I guess somehow with my ADHD brain, I just accidentally swapped that in there. Thank you for watching and enjoy this video. This is one of the most heinous crimes that have ever been committed in the United States, and it happened in Idabel, Oklahoma. Okay, I'm going to cover this case because everybody's asking me to. I'll put a little snippet at the end of the video where you can watch a full deep dive, okay? So the highlights of this. So there was a girl that stole a baby, essentially. Her name was Taylor Renee Parker, and she didn't just steal a baby. She cut it out of a woman, killing her, and then stealing the 34-week-old unborn baby. So it's not 34 weeks old yet. It's not even born yet. Okay, that's how long the term was when she cut it open. She cut this baby from the mom's stomach, C-section style, and stole the baby while the woman's daughter was in the next room. And it was one of the most savage, brutal attacks Oklahoma's ever seen. The crime scene was absolutely horrendous. Before I give more gruesome details, now's your chance to not watch this if you don't want to hear them. So first I'm going to back up and talk about how we got there, okay? So Taylor essentially tricked this guy. His name is Wade Griffin in Idabel, Oklahoma. She met him at a rodeo. She essentially tricked him, and, they got together. They started hanging out, and she told him that she was going to have millions of dollars from a oil company lease. She also said that she was the inheritor of like $6 million from a big syrup company that her family owned. And she didn't even have custody of her own 2 kids, and she explained that her mother was the worst person on the planet and had stolen the kids away from her when she was young and made bad decisions and essentially tricked her into taking these kids away from her. Anyhow, that was all lies. We know that now. Everything was lies. The money, the oil lease, the syrup stuff. This lady was just nuts. Taylor Renee Parker was just nuts, okay? And the Netflix documentary does not do a great job of putting all the info in there. So many people have been asking me questions and talking about this documentary. The Netflix documentary does not have most of the info in there because the case got sealed 2 years ago. Okay, so the case has way more info. This happened in 2020, and there's a lot of stuff cut out. Okay, so how was Wade's family tricked? Well, the answer is they weren't. The documentary wants you to make it seem like everybody was tricked and deceived because that sells better. Wade's mom said from day one that girl's a liar and she's trouble, but it wasn't that serious yet, and her son was just kind of having fun. Okay, then it got serious real fast. Things progressed really, really quickly, kind of on her doing. She kind of forced her way into Wade's life. Wade has openly admitted and even told her, we have records of this, that he never loved her, okay? At no point in the relationship did he ever say he loved her. It was kind of one of those things where she weaseled into his life. And I'm not trying to be mean, Wade, if you're watching this, because Idabel's not far away from me. Everybody's going, why did she go to all this lengths to trap this dude? His family wasn't rich. He's not the best looking guy. He seems like a great guy. Honestly, Wade, if you're watching this, you seem like a great guy. But everybody was saying, why did she go through all this lengths to trick this guy that she didn't know? And it really wasn't about that. It was about that she needed a facade. She needed a life, essentially. She had literally nothing. Everything that she had in her world, she had essentially got from lying, cheating, stealing, just all of the above. Just being a big fraudster, okay? But she hadn't turned violent yet, and that's going to change pretty quick. So her and Wade get together. She's tricked him into buying $20 million worth of property. Now, the property sales never went through, but she had Wade writing checks for money that he did not have, getting loans. She was promising that she was gonna pay him back whenever her oil money came in. She was just having problems getting it with the death of an uncle or something. But it was coming in, and when it came in, she was gonna repay him. So they bought this property called Pecan Point, or they were trying to anyhow. They put $200,000 down to secure this property. And stuff was going back and forth with her and the property owner. The property owner was, the real estate agent was getting excited because his commission was going to be $1.5 million on these $20 million worth of properties that she's wrote checks and deposited down on each one that were funded by loans that Wade was getting. And she would always try to get the family on her side. So the mom was saying, she's lying. And to try to get the mom on her side, she actually bought the mom a brand new Nissan Altima. But here's the problem. She didn't buy it. She said it was a gift from the oil money that she got. And then a week into her having that, the dealership said, hey, we need that car back, like right now. So Taylor said, hey, I'm going to do you a favor. They called me and said there's a recall in that car. I'm going to take it in so they can get the recall done. And the mom even openly said the statement, we'll never see that car again because I knew you didn't really buy it. This is all a lie and a facade. So, and sure enough, that was the case. The car got a recall on it. She took it back. The dealership took it back. She was supposed to be taking the car for an extended test drive, and then she was signed a contract saying she was buying it. But then when the bank found out that she doesn't have this job, she can't prove her income and all this stuff, they recalled the car. The bank did, not for a recall, like something was wrong in the car. So she was lying to everybody in this family, trying to get them on their side. The reason why they bought the pecan point is because his family were all major hunters, and she was trying to promise them, hey, you'll have leasing, hunting stuff all figured out for the rest of our lives. We'll lease this out to other hunters. We'll make money off this. We're going to trap and sell hogs to hunting ranches, which is what they did, which is not illegal, by the way, if you have your license. So she was lying to anyone and everybody that would listen. Now, the reason why, if you watch the footage where she's saying, you got to take me to Idabel Hospital, my husband's there. Her husband was not there. So Wade was not at the hospital waiting for her. The documentary does not do a good job of talking about that right off the rip. Her husband was not there. She'd already missed her due date and was supposed to be induced this day, is what she was telling everybody. The family never believed that she was pregnant. Even Wade did not believe she was pregnant. This man was not fully tricked and deceived. She had just weaseled her way into his life, and he did not know how to get her out of his life because, like I said, they were on the hook for millions of dollars worth of loans and properties, and he felt stuck, okay? That's it. She did not trick this man fully. She kind of got him too far in, and he didn't know how to get out, okay? So she said she was on the way to the hospital, to Idabel Hospital or whatever, and her husband was there. She had sent her husband to a different ranch that needed help to sell hogs to, okay? They had a bunch of hunters coming in that weekend. They needed a shipment of like 100 wild hogs. He had loaded up 100 hogs and had taken them down there, only to get there and find out that all of that was fake. She had also faked that situation. She would text Wade and Wade's family from multiple different phones and phone numbers and emails and social media apps, and she had created this whole network of people that were not even real. So the ranch was real, the ranch owner was real, but the order was not real. Okay, so Wade was sent off the day that she was supposed to be induced, and then he got stuck in this weird situation with over 100 hogs loaded on a trailer and didn't know what to do. Okay, this is in October of 2020. Now, the police catch her. She has the baby in her arms. The baby is dead. Because you see in the documentary, she's saying, oh, the baby's not breathing. The baby was dead. The baby was never alive. Okay? She cut the baby out of a woman named Renee. Renee was actually her photographer, and it talks about this in the documentary. And she killed Renee and stole the baby. Now, this was not her first attempt. She was actually going to kidnap a different baby before. So other hospitals were already on high alert because she had been caught lurking around the maternity ward and outside of the hospital looking for pregnant women, offering to buy babies from pregnant women. The belief was that she was going to steal a baby from the maternity ward, or she was going to wait for somebody to come out that had just had a baby, and she was going to snatch the baby and run. So hospitals were already on high alert with her. So that's why she wanted to go to that specific hospital, is because they were not on the alert yet. The police did not interrogate Wade like a suspect right off the rip because kind of the whole town knew about this situation. This was like a very open situation that people talked about on social media all the time. They would say, like, she's not really pregnant. Everybody was waiting to hear that the baby had been miscarried. That would be the excuse for her to get out of it. And when that announcement never came, people were like, oh, crap. They did not want to throw her a gender reveal party because they knew that she wasn't really pregnant. The mom was like, this is so pointless. This is so fake. Like, what are we doing here? Her and Wade's relationship was not good. That's why he did not see her naked or without a shirt on to know that she was wearing a fake pregnancy belly. And they really didn't have any kind of intimate romantic relationship like for months and months and months before the baby got there. Like from the time she'd be supposed to be showing, they had like no intimacy between them whatsoever. So that's why he never saw her without clothes on to know that that was a fake pregnant belly. And she was showing people sonograms and ultrasounds from her previous 2 kids that she did not have custody for that were like currently living in Colorado or something. And honestly, her real mom seems like a great lady. But she made it out to seem like she was a bad lady, and she showed all these text messages and emails from her mom talking about how she was an evil person, how she shouldn't be, allowed to have her kids. And of course, those emails and text messages were fake. Other people in her life from before she met Wade's family were trying to reach out, like her ex-boyfriend or ex-husband was trying to reach out to Wade and said, hey, I have copies of those ultrasound pictures that she posted online. That's from our kid that we had together. That she is nuts. She's had a hysterectomy. She can't even have kids. And Wade didn't want to believe it. But he called the hospital, and the hospital said, well, technically you're not married. I can't give you her information on this pregnancy or non-pregnancy without her consent, and she's not giving them the consent. And she would never allow Wade to go with her to the hospital. She would always just go on her own without telling him, or that's what she was saying. But now we know that she was just camping out those maternity wards, and she was never actually going and seeing a doctor. One of her friends actually took her to the doctor herself in person and made her go in to get a pregnancy test by the doctor. She went into the hospital, went into the bathroom, and took out a pre-printed piece of paper that was forged from the hospital saying that she was pregnant, and then walked back out and gave it to the friend. So then the friend believed her. And this is like another example of how she was manipulating everybody around her in her life into believing this was real. But the core people were not believing it, okay? Like, the documentary makes it seem like everybody was tricked, everybody was fooled. They were not. Now is where we're going to get pretty violent and gruesome. So you've had your chance to not watch the video if you don't want to see and hear about what's happening next. So when she attacked Renee, she had, like I said, she had already sent Wade off to that other ranch. She was supposed to be getting induced that day. So instead of going to the hospital to get ready, because Wade was supposed to be back in time for the inducement, her plan was she was going to go over to Reagan's house. She was going to cut this baby out of Reagan. She was going to drive herself to the hospital pretending that she had the baby in the car, and then all would be real with the world. No one would know her secret. She would get away with this, and that would be it, okay? I don't know how she ever thought she was going to get away with any of this, but she truly was a very insane, twisted person. So she goes over to Reagan's house. And this is the messed up part, is she didn't even really plan this murder properly. So what happened is she went to Reagan's house. Reagan had her own daughter there already, like her young daughter. She's only like a few years old or something. Taylor then takes a mason jar that was full of sand from Reagan's wedding. So like how they mix the sand, the husband and wife? So this thing was a mason jar, but it was heavy. They said it weighed about 4 pounds. And she hit Reagan over the head with this. And then she took a knife and was going to cut the baby out. But Reagan fought back much harder than she ever expected. The police said there was blood in every part of the house, essentially. Meanwhile, the daughter is in the house when this is happening, and apparently they closed her in a bedroom or something. But she attacks her with this mason jar, beats her in the head with it. The fight that ensued was so brutal that Reagan actually had all of her fingers were dislocated. She was missing tips of her fingers from fighting and grabbing and everything else. And Taylor's got the knife and the mason jar, and she was missing the tips of her fingers from defensive wounds. Her fingers were dislocated from trying to grab her or grab onto things to stop from being drug around this room. She was getting hit in the head so hard with this mason jar that chunks of her scalp were scattered around the house. So chunks of her hair were just like on the couch, on the wall, on the countertop, like just everywhere. And you can tell that Reagan essentially tried to run away this whole time and was just getting clobbered the whole time. Moving forward, Taylor succeeds in killing Reagan eventually. So she cuts the baby out, takes the baby into the car, sticks the umbilical cord like through her pants and kind of into her, if you know what I'm saying. I don't want to get flagged here. And she's driving down the road to the hospital. Now the baby, like I said, it's like 6 weeks premature, 7 weeks premature, something like that. So it didn't make it. It didn't survive that trauma, that attack, that assault, that being cut out, not by a doctor, but by somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, right? And she's speeding to the hospital when a police officer actually pulls her over. Now, a lot of people in the documentary are saying, why didn't the police officer even help? It was once again, this is not in the documentary good. The police officer could tell right away that the baby was deceased. The baby was not alive. Also, a nurse that was happened to be driving by saw the situation and also come over to help and try to do CPR on the baby. And you can see in the video that she's begging, just put me in your police car, take us to the hospital. And the police officer's like, no, we're waiting on the ambulance, because, like I said, the police officer could obviously tell that the baby's dead and something wasn't right here, because there was blood all over Taylor from the attack that she did, but there wasn't blood in the areas that there should be blood. Like if somebody gave birth in their car, in the seat, there should be blood all over the seat and the floorboard, but there wasn't. The blood was like all over her clothing and up top and in her hair and on her face and just all over the place, all over the door. And they take her to the hospital, and immediately, like the doctor, you can see in the documentary, the doctor even in front of her is like, she hasn't had a baby. I just did a check. She hasn't had a baby. And she tried to refuse the check like multiple times, like the vaginal check. And then they did ultrasounds on her, and that confirmed that she also, she's had a hysterectomy. She can't be pregnant. And they're like, she's never been pregnant. Okay. And so immediately they like put her on lockdown, and they're like, we've got to get the police involved here. And like somebody's got to take her immediately. So all the nurses, the doctors are like, we can't let her leave. The police was already there and on top of it. They just didn't know what they were dealing with. And they also knew that they were probably looking for a victim somewhere. Either somebody had their baby stolen or somebody was killed. And, these cases are so rare. Like this has almost never happened. So of course, in a small town, they didn't know how to deal with it either. But they did a great job of dealing with it. I don't want to say anything bad about the police here. They were on top of it immediately. There was never really much confusion in the case. It was just like a shock and awe factor of like, what do we do in this case? Like, what are we talking about here? You're talking about a town that almost has no homicides, let alone that, right? And it was just a sad, thing. And Reagan's parents actually found her and called the police, and they put two and two together very quickly. So Reagan's family, unfortunately, her mom's the one who made the 911 call. And all they see is when they open the door, because they had actually called Reagan. She didn't answer. She didn't show up for work that day. So they go over to her house. Her husband was at work. And when the mom and dad of Reagan go in the house, they just see that the house is covered in blood. And they call the police before they even see Reagan's body, because they know with this amount of blood that either someone is right on the brink of death or they're dead. And they do find Reagan. She is deceased, obviously. And then they hear the daughter crying from the other room, and they're just like thanking their stars that at least she's not hurt. But they still, that was their granddaughter, but they still had to find their very own daughter. And not just that she's dead, but she's dead in that way, and she's cut open. And you can hear the mom on the phone on Annie Elise's video, and it is just one of the most heartbreaking, gut-wrenching phone calls I've ever heard in my entire life. I don't recommend listening to it if you're really emotional. It is dark, and it is raw, and it is one of the scariest things I've ever heard. If you do want to listen to it, though, like I said, go watch Annie Elise's video. It's got all the information in there. She did this case before it was sealed, so she has way more info to give than the Netflix documentary did. Annie Elise on her different podcast, 10 to Life and Seriously, is where you can watch tons of stuff that was left out of the Netflix documentary. I'll put a link in the comments where you can watch the full episode from her. The Netflix documentary leaves out tons of information because the case got sealed like 2 years ago. So the Netflix documentary could not get to everything because they didn't start the documentary in time. Annie Elise covered the case about 5 years ago because this did happen in 2020, and she has all of the details, okay? She has way more details and interviews than Netflix has.